America had become so prejudiced that it assassinated its own president. We're talking about Abraham Lincoln and his indelible legacy of the abolition of slavery, which cost him his life. His political contributions and unique ability to lead continue to make him one of the most influential and beloved leaders of all time. And today is the day that started it all. Hello folks, today on Behind the Date, we will look at the life of Abraham Lincoln, his life in politics, and the important steps he took at the time to make America a fair and great country. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809 in a log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky. His parents, Thomas and Nancy Lincoln, were poor farmers who had a total of 3 children. Abraham was the middle child. Thomas and Nancy were uneducated, but they were both highly religious and instilled a strong sense of morality in their son. Abraham experienced a difficult childhood. His mother died when he was 9, and his father remarried 2 years later. During this time, Abraham received only a few months of formal education and was largely self-taught. He was a voracious reader, however, and studied the Bible, Shakespeare, and other classics. He also learned surveying and was an excellent marksman. During the 1830s, the Lincoln family moved to Illinois, where Lincoln worked as a storekeeper. He soon began studying law on his own and was admitted to the bar in 1836. Which enabled him to establish a successful law practice in Springfield, Illinois. But even though he found good success with law, he knew that politics was his calling. And so, in 1840, after years of trying, Lincoln finally was elected to the United States House of Representatives. He served 1 term and focused on the issue of slavery. He was a vocal opponent of the expansion of slavery and advocated for its gradual abolition. However, he was not in favor of immediate emancipation. At 1856, now an experienced politician, Abraham joined the newly formed Republican Party and immediately became their prime candidate. He was elected to the United States Senate, and during his term in the Senate, he made several famous speeches in which he attacked slavery and the expansion of it into the Western territories. He also gave a speech at the Cooper Institute in New York City that was widely considered to be the most important of his career. His popularity amongst the party and the populace started to increase significantly, and hence just before the 1860, Abraham was nominated as the Republican Party's candidate for president. Did he win? What do you think? He won, and that too, by a significant margin. His election as President of the United States in 1860 was a turning point in the nation's history, and Lincoln was a highly unlikely candidate for president. He had no college education, he was a self-taught lawyer, and he had served only 1 term in Congress. But he had a strong sense of justice and a commitment to the Union. His election marked a crucial turning point in the United States history and was a defining event for the nation. To understand the significance of Lincoln's election, it is important to consider the context of the time. In 1860, the nation was deeply divided over slavery, with a line drawn between northern states that were opposed to the expansion of slavery and southern states that supported it. The Republican Party had been founded as an anti-slavery party. Its platform was in favor of the Union and opposed the expansion of slavery into the new territories, and hence the party had become increasingly popular in the North and had gained support from people across the country. When Lincoln was nominated as the party's candidate for president in 1860, it was clear that he had a strong chance of winning the election. Lincoln's election was a major victory for the Union and a major defeat for the slave-owning South. His victory was a clear signal that the nation was moving in a new direction, toward a union based on freedom and equality for all citizens. This was a radical departure from the status quo, and Lincoln's election was seen as a major threat to the South. As a result, before he could completely appreciate what had occurred, Lincoln was confronted with the looming possibility of civil war due to rising tensions between the North and South over the subject of slavery. But he never gave up. Lincoln was unfazed by the Civil War. He knew he was a leader, and hence, he was determined to prevent the dissolution of the Union, no matter what it took. He knew that slavery was the root cause of the war and that it needed to be abolished. And hence, amidst the Civil War, Lincoln, in 1863, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all slaves in the United States were free. It was an act of executive authority. It was not a law, nor did it have the force of law, but it was an important statement about the president's intentions. The proclamation was a powerful statement of intent, and it was an important first step. Lincoln then used the power of the law to end slavery. He began by pushing for the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery in all states. The amendment was passed by both houses of Congress and was ratified by the states in December 1860. This was a major victory. In addition to the 13th Amendment, Lincoln also advocated for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. This law gave African Americans the same civil rights as whites, including the right to vote, to sue in court, and to own property. Abraham Lincoln's role in the fight against slavery was one of the most important events in American history. His journey from a rural, slave-owning family to the leader of a nation determined to abolish slavery is an inspiring story of courage and determination. He is a towering figure in American history and a reminder of the power of the individual to make a difference. But that doesn't mean it ended all well for the president. On April 15, 1865, Lincoln was shot in the head at close range by John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer, while attending the play Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Booth was particularly enraged by Lincoln's recent speech, where he considered the people of color equally, and as a result, he hatched an assassination plot. Booth and a small group of conspirators, including David Herold, Lewis Powell, and George Atzerodt, made their way to Ford's Theater, where the president was scheduled to arrive. Booth slipped into the president's box and shot Lincoln at point-blank range with a Derringer pistol. Lincoln died the next morning. Booth and his co-conspirators immediately fled the scene and made their way to a nearby boarding house. However, their escape was short-lived as the manhunt for Booth quickly intensified. Union troops tracked Booth and Herold down to a tobacco barn near Port Royal, Virginia. Herold surrendered, but Booth refused to do so. After a brief standoff, the Union troops set the barn on fire, and Booth was shot and killed. The other conspirators were later captured and tried for their involvement in Lincoln's assassination. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln was a tragic event that shook the nation and had a profound impact on the country. Not only did it deprive the nation of its leader, but it also highlighted the deep divisions that still existed among the people of the United States. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of the Union and the need for continued unity in a country just beginning to heal after a long and bloody civil war. Today, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln is remembered as one of the most tragic events in American history. While it did not end the Civil War, it did have a profound impact on the nation and its people. Lincoln's legacy as a leader, statesman, and martyr will continue to inspire future generations of Americans. And also, if you are one of those who are revolutionary figures that have changed the world, check out our previous video on the life of Bhagat Singh, a freedom fighter who gave his life for Indian independence.